It is 10:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It is the 22nd day of April 2024. This is episode 887 of Bitcoin. And, well, the halvening happened. And I know I'm already going to get backlash because I slipped up and I called it the halvening. People are having an allergic reaction to when other people say it was the halvening instead of the halving, or but one of the things that I like the most is the Hal Finning. I like Hal Finning. That actually makes a lot of sense. But wow, did we see some freaking fireworks go off then? Hopefully, if I remember, because I've got, all of two brain cells to rub together, I will talk a little bit about the aftermath of the halvening or the halving and block 840,000 and the shenanigans that went on a little bit before and that after that particular block. But first, we've got some new entrants into Nostr and a couple that I want to bring directly to your attention. It's hard for people to wrap their head around yet a new, and I'm going to say we're here to try to help understand normies and the way that they think. And the way that normal people are thinking when they hear us talk about Nostr, they think, oh joy, yet a new social media platform that I have to spend time with, that I have to do stuff with. They don't understand it yet. It's up to us for them to understand that Nostr is more than a social media platform. It is an uncensorable communications protocol. And with that comes, well, how many things do you communicate? How many different ways can we communicate? Nostr brings it all together and ties it up into one nice, neat. So the person that I'm going to bring to you first today is Jason Rick of Rick Ranches. He's a rancher. He's a banker. He's out there in the western portion of Colorado. I think he's up there by Black Canyon of the Gunnison. He is one of the first people that came. He drove all the way from his ranch in northwestern Colorado all the way down to central Texas, where Texas Slim and the Beef Initiative had their first Beef Initiative micro summit. And I was there, and so I got to meet Jason Rick and with a couple of other people. But I was surprised when Jason Rick said or started posting on Nostr. Now, again, let's be honest with ourselves. I'm not sure it's actually Jason Rick, but I have no reason not to believe that it's not Jason Rick. If it's somebody like me who just put up the Beef Initiative Nostr account, then it's somebody that's close to Jason Rick, really gives a shit about what Jason. In either event, it's Jason Rick, and that is spelled, and the reason I'm spelling this for you is because I need you to go follow him and show him some love on Nostr, because this is the way that we get normie people to understand what the hell Nostr actually is. Jason Rick, it's all one word, JASON WRICH. WRICH. Kind of pronounced Rick. It's a lot. Some people pronounce it Rich, but it's WRICH. Go throw him a follow, because he's one of the earliest entrants into the Beef Initiative that we had, and it's a real pleasure to see him here. I want him to learn how to post more of his content to Nostr. And for the guys over there in Zap.stream, I've got him on the screen. Now, second entrant to Nostr is K&C Cattle Company out of Central Texas. That is knccattlecompany.com if you want to go check out their website. Also, ranchers. Clearly. Also, some of the very earliest entrants into the Beef Initiative. And they are now representing themselves, or somebody close to them is representing them in the Nostr namespace. Please go over to KC Cattle Company, all one word on Nostr. Just search for it, add it, do whatever it is that you got to do to find it. I'll try to remember to put the NPub down in show notes, but like I said, man, I'm running out of brain cells to rub together to start fires. But it's KC Cattle Company, and they got on roughly around the same time that Jason Rick got on, which makes me wonder, okay, maybe it's the same person that's doing this. I don't know. But it's important for people to start claiming their namespaces on Nostr, even if you don't intend on using it. At least get your NSEC and NPub key pair from some client. Go use Primal, go use Coracle, go use any of the Nostr clients that will generate you a key pair. Keep them secret, keep them safe. Well, not your NPub. Your NPub's going to get out there, but NSEC, that one you need to keep secret and you need to keep safe. Again, I want to welcome both Jason Rick and K&C Cattle Company to Nostr. I hope they have a good time, and we can teach them exactly why it is the most important, uncensorable communications platform that the earth and its people have ever seen. Now, what are we doing? Oh, the Circle P. The Circle P is open for business. Yes, it certainly is open for business. And today's Circle P is, it's Shishi. And Shishi will sell you comfrey. It's a plant. You want this plant. This plant is magic. And it is prolific. Wherever you plant this thing, it'll most likely never die. It's perennial. It comes back again and again. It does all manner of stuff, right? It's a good medicine. It heals wounds. It's great as a nitrogen addition for compost. It's a great, like, you just mulch your plants with dead leaves. Cut them all off, or not dead, cut all the leaves off the top of it. You mulch a plant with it. It grows back. Cut it all off again. You mulch another plant. And divide this thing ad infinitum and get more and more plants. By the time I left my home in Canyon, Texas, I had well over 100, if not 200, separate individual comfrey plants just generating biomass for me. And it's the best biomass that you can generate because it does all this wonderful stuff. If you want to know all the stuff that it does, go back to the Bitcoin and episode 726, where I give you an in-depth view of why it is you want this plant. You can get one full root of comfrey and he will ship it to you for $20. However, you are going to pay shipping. You can get a smattering of root cuttings, which is what I recommend, but get 20 or 25 or 30 of them. Start 30 plants, because this thing, if you do it, you don't, you plug it in the, dig a hole in the ground, you shove a root cutting in there, you cover it over, and you keep it watered until it starts coming up. It's almost foolproof. Almost foolproof. It's almost impossible to kill this plant, right? So get 30 of them. You will be happy that you did. However, just be aware, wherever you put this plant, make sure that this is where you want this plant, because it's going to be there forever. You will never get rid of it. You don't want to get rid of it. What I recommend is the further southern latitudes you are, Texas, Oklahoma, shit gets hot. It does not like full sun. It can take full sun in the morning, but not in the afternoon. It does not like that shit. In the northern climates where it's cooler, you might be able to get away with it. But dappled shade or full shade in the afternoon, but full sun in the very early morning, that's what you're going to want. And this plant is going to form magic, you and your garden. All right. With all of that out of the way. Oh, by the way, Shishi's information will be in the show notes. Now, on to the news. Bitcoin Magazine. Yeah, I know. We give them a lot of shit, and I'm not going to stop giving them shit for being part of the Runatics, the Ordinal, Dorkadals, whatever. They're all over it, and I don't like that. I'm sick of watching. This will be the second time that Bitcoin Magazine is on full shitcoin. However, sometimes they do have good news, and I will continue to read that good quality news. Sometimes, if it's not about ordinals, I don't bring you that. However, Vivek Sin is writing this one. The Swiss central bank has been urged to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet. See where this one goes. A group of Bitcoin advocates in Switzerland have launched a campaign to convince the Swiss National Bank to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet. The nonprofit organization 2B4CH, not just nudge, not just wink wink, not just, hey, you might want to get some. No. Require the central bank to hold Bitcoin. According to 2B4CH founder and chairman Yves Benim, this move would help Switzerland maintain its political neutrality and sovereignty in an uncertain global environment. Quote, we are in the process of completing the organizational preparations for the committee and preparing the documents that must be submitted to the state chancellery in order to start the process, Benim stated. To achieve a referendum under Switzerland's system of direct democracy, the advocates have to collect 100,000 signatures from Swiss citizens within 18 months. Switzerland's population at around 8.7 million, roughly 1.15% of the population, needs to sign this petition. This signature requirement posed challenges. 2B4CH attempted a similar referendum in 2021. Luzi, I can't pronounce this name, Luzi Messier, president of the Bitcoin trading platform Bitcoin Suisse, supports the new campaign. Quote, by including Bitcoin in its reserve, Switzerland would mark its independence from the European Central Bank. Such a step would strengthen our neutrality, Messier said. Messier believes adopting Bitcoin makes Switzerland billions of dollars. He previously advised the SNB to allocate over $1 billion monthly. Not just one time, but every month, $1 billion to BTC instead of German bonds. However, SNB Chair Thomas Jordan has thus far resisted, claiming Bitcoin does not meet the reserve criteria. The campaign has won support from Bitcoin advocates globally, including German politician Joanna Kotar. Quote, now comes the popular initiative that wants to oblige the national bank to buy Bitcoin. If successful, the move could make Switzerland the first country in the West to hold. This mirrors El Salvador's groundbreaking adoption of Bitcoin tender in 2021. Proponents argue integrating Bitcoin would diversify the SMB's assets and signal Switzerland's commitment to financial innovation. All right, so this has been done before. And when it came out, I brought it to you. So this is round 2. Ding, 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 ding. Cue the hot chick in the bathing suit with the cue cards with saying round 2 going around the ring, right? Will it work this time? I don't know. I mean, honestly, 1.15% of a population to actually do work and sign their name to a paper, much less do the work to understand what the hell it is that they're advocating for, that seems like that would be harder than you think. 1.15% doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it is, especially when that 1.15% is spread out across a nation the size of Switzerland, which ain't huge, but it ain't it's not small, right? When you start thinking about where all these different people live, they got to go collect up all these signatures. So what can we do to help? I don't know, figure out who these people are, go out to any of your other social media platforms, which hopefully will die now that we have Noster. But I'm not going to get into all that today because we have other fish to fry. That this one, Prescient Jha is writing this one from Cointelegraph, talking about how the Bitcoin ETF demand has now turned negative around the BTC halving. Horror. Humanity. Oh, by the way, Uno, I see you zapping me multiple 121 sat zaps. It is much appreciated, my friend. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Demand for the newest Bitcoin investment products is slowing down as the world's first cryptocurrency went through its 4th halving event. Spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds became a benchmark for institutional investments in Bitcoin after launching in January of this year. The 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs approved by the United States regulators in January collectively managed over $13 billion in inflows within a couple of months of launch. Gold ETFs took years to accomplish the same feat. At their peak, spot Bitcoin ETFs saw up to $1 billion daily in net inflows, the result of institutional investors reallocating investments from the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to the new ETFs. That's not right. Why is that not right? Because we're talking about net inflows. And when they say that this was a result of people taking their shit out of GBTC, that's wrong. Because there's an outflow of GBTC. And yes, they may be going back into a different ETF, but it's with the net result of just what's coming out of GBTC may just very well be zero. It certainly can't be more, right? So those net inflows they're talking about is actually coming from somewhere else. I don't know why that's in there, but that is a glaring error. Please, editors of Cointelegraph, get your collective shit together. The Bitcoin halving is considered an important event in the Bitcoin timeline, which occurs roughly every 4 years and reduces the block reward for miners by half. Thus, the amount of new BTC added to the market daily is reduced by half. The halving has now reduced the block reward from 6.25 Bitcoin to 3.125 Bitcoin. Reduced rewards and high demand for BTC via ETFs led many market pundits to predict a supply shock after the April halving. However, after weeks of consecutive net positive inflows to Bitcoin ETFs, demand for the products appear to be slowing down. While many market analysts predicted that GBTC outflows would soon dry up as institutions, ran out of GBTC shares to sell, inflows to ETFs have now turned negative. Ahead of the Bitcoin halving, spot ETFs recorded several consecutive days of net outflows ranging in the hundreds of millions of dollars. However, despite the current downturn, Yog Kuner, head of derivatives at Bitfinex, believes the demand for ETFs will catch up after the halving. Quote, the reduction in inflows and significant outflows is not correlated to the halving event, but rather to the current SPX and NASDAQ decline and geopolitical reasons. Bitcoin ETFs are an alternative investment or a smaller part of a large traditional finance. The current situation is likely a product of rebalancing risk in those portfolios, reducing exposure to higher risk assets, he said. Kuner added that BTC's impressive rally since January, thanks not only to the ETF approvals, but also to market participants speculating on the impact of spot ETFs on the price. Thus, we expect a stabilization of inflows to result in a return of speculation on bullish tipping of flows while we return to bullish trending market conditions, he said. The first 3 months of spot Bitcoin ETF inflows ranged from 3 to 10 times the daily mining supply of 900 BTC. The high ETF demand and heavy buying from institutional giants such as MicroStrategy led many market analysts to predict a post-halving supply shock. A Bybit report predicted that BTC reserves on exchanges could dry up within 9 months of the halving, while other analysts predicted a 6-month time. According to data shared by crypto analytics firm CryptoQuant, BTC supply on centralized exchanges fell to a 3-year low of only 1.94 million BTC by April the 16th. Hai-Young Zhu, CEO of CryptoQuant, made a similar prediction, saying BTC could face a severe supply shock within 6 months of the halving. But by the 3rd week of April, ETF demand has slowed to consecutive net daily outflows. The demand for ETFs stagnated at the end of March when BTC saw its first week of net outflows. Young stated that the demand for ETFs may rebound if the BTC price approaches critical support levels where new whales have a $56,000 on-chain cost basis. The cost basis of an investment is the total amount initially invested plus any commission or fees involved in that purchase. Kuner added that people often ignore the long-term hodlers with a significant amount of supply. He said that there could also be a major distribution from long-term holders during the late of the cycle, explaining, quote, the demand for spot Bitcoin ETFs is unprecedented by all accounts, but a single metric cannot measure demand for BTC itself. However, the market decline is evidence enough demand doesn't currently outstrip BTC supply on an absolute basis, end quote. While ETF demand has slowed, open interest in BTC options has increased, implying that buy and hold investors are waiting on the sidelines while volatility-focused investors are taking their place. Yosef Tetek, Bitcoin ambassador at hardware wallet maker Trezor, told Cointelegraph that ETFs don't necessarily signify institutional demand. Under U.S. regulation, ETFs are available to both institutional and retail investors. Thus, it's impossible to speculate on the impact and relative influence of various demand drivers in the term. Quote, taking a longer term view, turning away from U.S. markets, there's rising demand for Bitcoin in countries across the globe as fiat currencies fail as a reliable store of value, and even in some countries as even a viable medium of exchange. Quote, the post-halving supply shock notion was prevalent for most of February and March, owing to heavy inflows of spot ETFs despite GBT outflows and new BTC price highs. However, just days before the halving, ETF flows turned passive, and the BTC price also slid nearly 10% from all-time highs, prompting many to reconsider their supply shock theory in the short term. However, some experts are optimistic that BTC ETF demand will reach new highs as market conditions improve after the halving. Okay, so what are we actually seeing? I think we're seeing that outflows since the outflows started coming after a prolonged period of not having a new all-time high, people got bored. It wasn't new and shiny anymore. They were promised, like this huge, massive God candle was going to be immediate, and they didn't get it immediately. And because the majority of the human population has literally no patience whatsoever, they're now looking for other things that are new and shiny, but there's not any. That's the thing, except for the runes and ordinal stuff, and don't do that. Please don't do that. That is a terrible place to put your money. However, it's the only new and shiny thing that there is, isn't it? It's sad. It's sad. We all want Bitcoin to become boring, because if it becomes boring, then that means that it's just firmly planted as the permanent escape valve and escape hatch that we all need to use. But if it's boring and not shiny, well, the low IQ humans are just with not a plate, a bowl full of patience between them, are just going to look for anything else because everything is so dire out there. I literally believe that if I needed to put it all into a nice little sack and sew it all up, it's just people didn't get what they want as soon as they wanted it. And because of that, they just kind of got high and wandered off. Oh well, I honestly do not give a shit. We don't really need to eat. Is it fun to have? Is it fun to watch? Yeah, sure, it generates news. It's kind of fun to watch how everything's going on, but it is what it is. Now, what happens? Now, we're talking about supply shock in that last bit, but what happens when the very last Bitcoin? We got a thought experiment here from Jose Antonio Lanz out of Decrypt. Figure out what he's trying to say. Imagine a world where the money supply is finite and there's no dollars left to print. Sounds bizarre, right? But in the realm of Bitcoin, this scenario is not only possible, it's inevitable. Bitcoin network, designed with a finite supply of 21 million coin, just hit a significant milestone. The halving just chopped its inflation rate by half for the fourth time since its inception. As of now, 19,688,016 Bitcoin have been mined, leaving less than 2 million to be discovered over the next 120 years. This scarcity, coupled with the increasing demand for Bitcoin, is set to reshape the cryptocurrency's future. The roadmap to the final Bitcoin being mined is a gradual process. By 2026, 95.25% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. And by 2039, this figure will reach 99.5%. The mining of the penultimate Bitcoin is projected to occur roughly around 2093. Let's fast forward a little more to, 2140, the year when the very last Bitcoin, realistically, the last Satoshi, is expected to be mined. By this time, Bitcoin's inflation rate will have flattened out. The impact of the milestone will be particularly significant for Bitcoin miners. Once all Bitcoin is mined, miners will now no longer receive new Bitcoin as block reward. Instead, they will solely rely upon transaction fees as their source of income. As block rewards decrease over time, transaction fees are expected to become the primary revenue source for miners, potentially leading to higher fees in US dollar terms, that is. And just for reference, back in 2011, users paid 0.01 BTC per transaction, with many of them being confirmed for free. This amount was then reduced to 0.0005 BTC, version 0.3.23, and kept going down as the reality of Bitcoin evolved and its price started to go up. Today, the average fee per transaction is 0.00022 BTC, roughly around 104 Satoshis per V, according to BitInfo charts. In dollars, this means up to $15 in today's prices for a single transaction. In 2017, the average fee was around $1, and in 2012, fees were around a single United States penny. The cost of mining a Bitcoin block today varies significantly and depends on factors such as energy cost, mining hardware efficiency, the network hash rate. According to estimates by data site Visual Capitalist, back in 2022, each American miner spent over $20,000 per mined block. UK miners spent almost $50,000, and the highly profitable Kazakhstan mining farms paid over $8,000 per block. These costs are anticipated to rise further after the latest halving event. Block rewards cut in half. However, miners can afford a 50% drop in BTC rewards because there's price appreciation, and that makes it more profitable to mine in terms of fiat. Between January of 2020 and April of 2024, the price of Bitcoin has increased by 943 terms. Despite these challenges, the network is designed to maintain its security through the difficulty algorithm, which ensures a consistent rate of block generation even as miner participation fluctuates due to economic incentives or changes in the mining landscape. As the supply of new Bitcoin dwindles, the cryptocurrency is expected to become increasingly scarce and even deflationary due to external factors like lost wallet addresses and burned coins. This means that not all Bitcoin in circulation will be available for actual use. Estimates from crypto forensics firm Chainalysis suggest that up to 20% of the Bitcoin already issued may be permanently lost due to factors such as lost private keys or the passing of Bitcoin hodlers without sharing their wallet details. This shift could potentially affect Bitcoin's value and its role as a digital store of wealth because Bitcoin's appeal as peer-to-peer electronic cash, its intended utility, gives way to the decentralized store of value thesis every single time that the price goes up. While the supply of Bitcoin remains relatively stable, with a maximum increase of around 12% over the next century, demand for Bitcoin may continue to grow. Basic economic principles suggest that a fixed supply coupled with increasing demand drive up prices as more people seek to gain a share of Bitcoin supply. Now, as noted, it is anticipated that users will pay fewer Satoshis per transaction in the future. However, Bitcoin may still not be ideal for small payments. After all, it wouldn't be good for transactions that are equal or less than the fee required to process them, like a cup of coffee thing. This is at the heart of the scalability debate that has been a contentious issue among developers, even leading to the most significant chain split in the Bitcoin network's history and the emergence of Bitcoin Trash. Bitcoin Trash proponents argue that Bitcoin should have larger blocks. He's not actually saying trash, he's saying cash, but it's trash. It's Bitcoin Trash, whatever. Essentially, larger data records measured in megabytes that could contain the transaction details stored on the network. Larger blocks would allow miners to receive more money per mined block, thereby reducing the strain passed on to users. The bigger the block, the larger amount of transactions can fit into it, meaning there will be more fees to claim. Bitcoin developers, however, believe that Layer 2 solutions and sidechains could tackle this problem without having to alter the core BTC integration. The Lightning Network, in particular, has been touted as a potential solution for facilitating daily Bitcoin transactions while keeping the main the main blockchain reserved for high value or batch transactions. What happens in the Lightning Network stays on the Lightning Network, and transactions are only confirmed on chain when users cash out their Lightning Network Satoshis. It's akin to a bank versus a street cash system. A bank maintains a record of every single digital transaction. A person can cash out one digital dollar to receive one physical dollar, and all the money exchanges made with that dollar in the streets, aka the Lightning Network, are immediate but not registered by the bank until someone decides to deposit that dollar into their account, which is then recorded by the bank that stores the bill. This could allow miners to charge higher fees for processing these larger transactions, leaving small change for off-chain developments while maintaining the traditional small blocks relevant. Excuse me, pardon me. However, a lot can happen in a century of Bitcoin history. A new fork that changes the chain's configuration, the mass adoption of layer 2 solutions, a new development that increases network efficiency, side chains, a better Bitcoin, we don't know. What we do know, however, is that as long as there's an internet, Bitcoin will function the way Satoshi intended. A strong, decentralized network with a lot of weird people hyping it on Twitter. Okay, so there's actually there's a lot to be said about this particular article. However, this is going to have to be something for our children, our children's children, their children, and their children, and their children to figure out. It doesn't mean that we stopped worrying about it, but what it does mean is that this is a question that at the very first Beef Initiative Micro Summit in, I think it was Kerrville, Texas, I posited this question to, he was from Unchained Capital, very famous, and I'm completely blanking on his name. He gave a presentation on why fiat money bad. And I asked him, how do we make sure that we impart to the next generation the importance of running your own Bitcoin node, consensus rule? How do we make sure that this thing just doesn't fall apart because we're not Johnny on the spot with education for not only the people that are alive today, but how do we teach our children to teach their children who aren't even born yet how to keep this shit rolling on? That's an important question. That's a more important question than what the hell happens after there's no more block subsidy, aka there's no more inflation rate of Bitcoin because all the Bitcoin is mined. Everybody, you're a miner and you're securing the network, you're depending on network fees, right? I think the question of how we educate beyond the person that we educate, most important problem, way more important than what happens after the last Satoshi mined. Let's run the numbers. All right, I'm going to throw this up here for you guys over there in the chat, so that you or zap.stream, so you can see what Comfrey looks like. I'm just going to leave this rack of Google images of what Comfrey looks like up in the screen, and we'll get into the numbers. Ooh, it looks like everybody's having a good day except oil, which is getting pounded because Israel and Iran are starting to kiss each other's ass, or at least that's what I'm seeing out of CNBC news headlines, that the tensions are being relaxed. Meanwhile, West Texas Intermediate is down 0.07% to $83.08 a barrel. Brent North Sea is down a full half point to 86.86. Natural gas is of course doing the reverse. It's actually up 1.25 points to $1.77. Gasoline itself is down 0.85% to $2.68. Gold is having a bad day, and all the other shiny rocks are following suit. Gold is down almost 3 points. Silver is down 5.5 points. Platinum is down 1.2. Copper is down a third, and palladium is down 0.72%. So commodities just getting screws put to it. Ag commodities, however, are kind of in the green. The biggest winner today is wheat, 3.71% to the upside. Biggest loser is chocolate, 4.64% to the downside. Live cattle is up almost 1.5 points. Lean hogs are up almost a half. Feeder cattle are up 2.12%. The Dow rallying 422 points because, legacy financial. Anyway, that represents a 1.11% increase. S&P is up 1.25%, NASDAQ up 1.25%, S&P Mini up 1.33%. Now, Clark Moody's dashboard price is $66,670 per Bitcoin. That is a $1.31 trillion market cap. There's 19,688,446.12 BTC inflation. Hash rate over the last 2016 blocks hitting 621.4 exahashes per second. Average fees per block, 1.8 BTC. Reading that again. The average fees per block, 1.8 BTC. That's a lot of Bitcoin. Having estimate, March 19th, 2028. Starting the clock. Let's roll the clock back. Woohoo! We're already looking forward to the next halving. 1.8% of block space is being wasted on ordinals and what I can only assume are runes. Just getting so sick of these. Stop being stupid. 257 blocks waiting to clear, and they are carrying how many? 241,000 unconfirmed transactions. 170 Satoshis per VByte, or roughly $15. No, actually make that, no, it just went up. $16 for your average transaction. That's high priority. Low priority is about $12.77, about 137 Satoshis per VBlock. And anything under 10 Satoshis per VBlock is being purged from mempools around the world. All right, so let's take a break here and talk just briefly about what happened with the halving. This would be as good a place as it to talk about it. So the halving comes, and all of a sudden, people start realizing that they want to get that first Satoshi mined on the first block of the first, of the first block of the fifth epoch. We are now in the fifth epoch, right? We just came out of the fourth, with the halving happened on the 19th. We turned over to the fifth epoch. There's this notion of an epic sat. And it's like the first sat that was ever mined. The first, all the Satoshis in the first block that was ever mined are probably considered epic Satoshis, but nobody's ever going to be able to get their hands on it because that's locked away forever. Why now? But the first Satoshi mined, and everything that I'm saying is ludicrous. So don't think that I actually believe this crap. It's all made up and bullshit. But there are people that actually fundamentally believe that there's an order to when Satoshis were actually mined. The first Satoshi of the first block, the second Satoshi of the first block. Oh, I've got the 151st Satoshi mined in the first block of the fifth epoch. No, it doesn't work that way. But people think that. Because they thought that. Guess what happened? Everybody wanted to be able to have a transaction that got mined in that first block, that they would have the chance of having that first Satoshi or having just a transaction in the first block. And so the only thing that happened is that fees went ape shit. Ape shit. I was seeing 10,000 Satoshi per VByte transactions. If I actually go back, let's see if I can find that block. 840, 123. See if I can find this thing. Yep, there it is, right there. What were the fees? What were the fees in block 840,000, the halving block? The total fees, $2.4 million, or 37.6 BTC. That was fees. The subsidy was 3.125 BTC, so it made absolutely no difference, almost no difference. 37.6 BTC. And they're all rune chasing and ordinal chasing and epic sat and legendary sat and whatever sat. It's all in your mind. So now think about that. And now start thinking about how normal people think about fiat money, their United States dollars versus Bitcoin. How rabid they are that Bitcoin is backed by nothing, but certainly the US dollar. It's all made up. It's all made up. We put our faith in the United States dollar because at one point or another, there was at least the notion that it was physically backed by gold, which stopped in 1971. That summer, 1971. Nixon pulled us off the gold standard. Never put us back. It was supposed to be temporary. Never put it back. Nope, nope, nope. But because we started entering into full fiat fiefdom with the notion that at one point it had been backed by gold. And people thought it was backed by gold for decades after that, even though it wasn't. They just put their faith in it. Well, as long as inflation of that money stayed low or low enough, people put up with it. Worked pretty well. But ever since 2001, and then again in 2008, here we are again, pumping money back into the system. We've got too many dollars fighting for too few goods. That means that houses are out of sight. Cars, very expensive. Everything is expensive. Right? We put our faith in this belief that the United States dollar is going to work. Just like these people, these runatics, as I call them, are putting their faith that runes and ordinals and the inscription schemata, BRC20s, that they're putting their, because it's made up bullshit. Now, when somebody says, yeah, but outside of energy, Bitcoin is backed by nothing. Two things. One, energy is enough to back that by because energy is the current universe. How the payment rails work is another matter altogether for different systems in the universe, different natural systems. But generally speaking, energy is the currency of the universe, right? Therefore, energy works as a backing mechanism for something like that. Two, the math stays the same. If we can get the next generations to not buy into bigger blocks or whatever it is that screws this whole thing up, then we will only ever have 20. Over time, there's going to be attrition of those coins, which makes it very, very important that you keep your shit secure, that you don't do stupid shit like make transactions while you're high or drunk, right? But be that as it may, there's math. So Bitcoin is backed by two things: actual energy and the philosophy and language of mathematics. If that's not enough for money, then we need to stop having the idea that there is any money. And we need to do all of our work for free. We need to like not give a shit about how much time we spend on the planet. We'd have to have a complete you'd almost have to have a neurological, physiological shift in the way the human mind processes information for that shit to actually occur and be anywhere remotely sustainable. Again, the narrator to tell you it won't. It's not sustainable. Mind doesn't work that way. Change it. Been brought up this way for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We have to have something like a money that is backed by energy and math. That works for me. It really does. So that's what happened with the halving block. And it kept going on. It was like it was almost as if people say, "Well, I couldn't get into the halving block. I'll forget all about that transaction and not try to like reverse it or try to like have it where it just doesn't happen. Make sure that it's got such a low fee that it'll never get in a block and eventually it'll just get kicked out by the system. Get your beat." No, they just left it there. So you had like 45 blocks that had super abnormal high fees. Was it because they forgot about it? I don't know. What were they? What of any significance, given the lunacy of these lunatics, could have been valuable in block 840,043? I don't know, but 840,043, that block had extraordinarily high fees. It's lunacy. Don't expect this kind of bullshit to ever. It's sad. I hate having to put up with it, but it is what it is. Okay, from Runatics, that was Wednesday's episode. I got Nat Gas Immersion boosted me 50,000 Satoshis. Brother, he says, I got a new Circle P idea for you. Hey, Nat Gas, I got your phone number. I sent you a text message. And I said, hey, it's none of your business. This is David. Get in touch with me about this idea for the Circle P that you got. I want to hear it because 50,000 sats, that's going to get my attention. It gets my attention. JC Denton with 3125 says, happy halving and thanks for giving us the show multiple days a week. We appreciate you. Not as much as I appreciate you. HBH Gardens with 3000 says, love the show, sir. Any thoughts on Matt Corallo's FUD about Bitcoin on Nostr? I don't know what Matt Corallo's saying exactly, so I don't feel comfortable talking about it. I'll see if I can dig into it. Dubrovko with 1650 says, take a look at this video and give me a good reason why this tow truck would try to tow that car. Best reason gets 10,000 Satoshis. I think he might be referring to the video that was circulating on Twitter about that tow truck. The dude gets into a tow truck and runs this guy over at full speed. It's horrifying to watch, which is why I don't go to Twitter that often, because all I see is not only negative stuff, but a person getting killed. I don't want to see somebody get killed. Anyway, Dubrovko, I don't know. I'll have to take a look at the video. George X McKee with 1480 says, less than 4 years. In the beginning, the difficulty was very low. Here's a quote from Satoshi I read in the book Satoshi. Quote, I made the proof of work difficulty ridiculously easy to start with. So, for a little while in the beginning, a typical PC will be able to generate in just a few hours. It'll get a whole lot harder when competition makes the automatic adjustment drive up the difficulty. That makes sense. I think I can agree with that. Ghost of Whitman with 1,000 gives me a couple of emojis. Axelrod 525 says nothing. 02ZX boosted 421 says thanks. No thanks to the legendary Sat Fat pushers. Yeah, I hear you. Eyes with 420. Thank you, sir. No, thank you. God's Death 337. Thank you. No, thank you. That's the weather report. MKD podcast. Ayo. Glad to see you here, brother. Second, well, on the fly, audio editing. Waveforms everywhere. Welcome to part 2 of the news you can use. Bisq version 2.0.3 has been released. Quote, Bisq version 2.0.3 has been released with a number of important improvements and fixes, including allowing buyers who make their own offers to decide the trade price and making the process more consistent for sellers to acquire reputation. Buyers making offers now decide the trade price. If the seller sets a new price when taking your offer because they're still running old software, then you can decide whether to proceed or reject/cancel the trade with no violation of trade rules. If you haven't noticed, you can add the most used markets as favorites. You can do that by clicking on the empty star when hovering on the market. Reputation is now consistent, and your stars will only go up as you burn or lock more BSQ. More changes in this area to come soon. We have also worked overall network and connectivity. So Bisq, if you're wondering, if you want to get KYC free Bitcoin, Bisq 2, they've kind of changed their name. They've full point release is now Bisq 2, BISQ 2. Right, has been around forever. Bisq has been around for as long as I've been in Bitcoin. I got in the summer of 2020. Still going strong, still working on their software. So they're active under active development, and you can use Bisq BISQ to get KYC free Bitcoin, and you're probably going to have to do that if you're living in certain countries. Like, I don't know, Canada, right? So again, if that's what you want KYC free Bitcoin and you want to buy it with fiat, use Bisq 2, BISQ. Brains Pool, they've made an announcement that is really kick ass. Brains Pool Lightning payouts are now available to all users. Lightning payouts are here. Get ready for the halving with instant daily payouts with no minimums or fees, announced Brains. Enter your Lightning address in a financial account and set up a payout rule. Then, get your sats lightning fast. Improve your mining margins just in time for the fourth halving. Recently, Lightning-based payouts have also been launched by a KYC mining pool named NiceHash. Back in February, Titan Mining has also announced Titan Lightning to facilitate nearly instant block reward distribution for miners. So Lightning Network is now being fully adopted by the mining side of the Bitcoin ecosystem, paying out the miners, pointing their hash rate to these variables. This is awesome. This is great. God only knows if it, I presume it's going to all be fine. However, we should be vigilant and not just assume that everything is going just fine. So we'll keep an eye on how this goes. But this is the way moving forward. Is going to be layer 2 payouts for Bitcoin mining. And the last people to install that will have the least amount of hash rate pointed I guarantee. Now on to Cashew. Cashew Nutshell version 0.15.3 has improved mint crash resistance. Cashew Nutshell is a Chaumian eCash wallet and a mint for Bitcoin Lightning. Cashew Nutshell is reference implementation in Python. This update improves the crash resistance of a mint if the mint should fail during an outgoing Lightning payment. The startup routine will now pick up those payments and invalidate all pending proofs associated with them if the payment succeeded. Also, note, this release includes a database migration for the Mint. Make sure to back up your Mint database before upgrading. If you're going to upgrade, if you're running a Mint, if you're doing this thing, make sure that you back up your database for your Mint before you actually do the upgrade. The wallet can now check pending invoices thanks to work by USpank using the command Cashew invoices. Various flags have been added to the command, which like Cashew, well, just type in Cashew invoices space -- help, and that will give you a list of what commands you can. The wallet can now restore eCash from all key sets of a mint with the command Cashew restore, thanks to an by CJ Berry 24. So if you're interested in running a mint, Cashew Nutshell has upgraded, so all that. Ant Pool and Bitmain acting as a pool of pools, according to a report. This does not bode well. I don't like this. But Ant Pool / Bitmain is essentially a pool of mining pools. This is causing mining centralization, according to the report. Quote, looking at the Merkle branches that mining pools send to their miners as part of Stratum's jobs, it's clear that the BTC pool, Binance pool, Poolin, EMCD, Raw pool, possibly Brains have exactly the same template and custom transaction prioritization as Ant Pool. Analyst OXB10C recently shared in a post. Stratum V1 jobs include parts of Coinbase transaction and the Merkle branches. A miner needs to Merkle root. If all branches are equal across all pools, the block template is exactly the same. Quote, I've heard speculation about this all being linked to an FPS partnership with Ant Pool / Bitmain. Bitmain ensures against bad pool luck, but you have to use Bitmain's template or transaction priority and pay the mining reward to the insurer for distribution. Essentially, pool of pools and a lot of mining centralization, added the analyst. I can confirm these findings and further note that I've observed both Ultimus Pool and Brains frequently sending jobs with identical Merkle branches to Ant Pool. When pools are just acting as proxies for other pools without being upfront about it, Bitcoiners need to take note. Time to demand Stratum V2 is now, commented developer Matt Corallo. I agree. And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. It is most likely, it's most likely probable that in the days of Stratum V1, that the templates were all exactly the same. And they were just mining, the Ant Pool template. Okay. Everything is in early days. We seek decentralization, but what's the negative pressure on decentralization? Gravity. Gravity is everywhere. It's between physical objects in the universe, such as suns and planets. It's in dust clouds. It can be like, gas, not even dust, gas, just hydrogen will coalesce because of the forces of gravity to centralize, and then it heats up, and then it ignites in a fusion reaction, and then boom, you got a sun. Okay, our sun is the result of centralization. I don't want decentralization in the universe. I also don't want complete centralization, as in there's only one sun. Do you have any idea how big that is? If all the suns in the universe just coalesced and formed one sun? That doesn't make any sense either. However, just because the forces of gravity we're taught act on physical mass does not mean that the idea has not been ingrained in the human, hairless, treeless ape brain. It has. Things tend towards centralization for efficiency. That doesn't make it good. In fact, it makes it very bad. However, for some reason, humans just cannot get away from trying to make everything efficient. I don't know why. There's a beauty in inefficiency, but apparently I'm the only one that sees it. Everybody else looks at it and says, ooh, that's bad. Well, here we are in Bitcoin, and centralization is occurring, but we're constantly trying to blow apart that centralization by things like writing code that results in Stratum v2. It's always going to be a push and pull. There's never going to be complete decentralization. But because we hate centralization, there's never going to be complete centralization either. It's going to kind of exist in the in between forever. Get used to it. That's going to do it for the morning roundup. Dad says, jokes. We started a band and called it Books, so no one can judge us by our covers. Ever been in a band that played cover music? You know exactly what that means. All right. Centralization and decentralization are going to coexist, just like stupid runes and ordinals are going to coexist with real actual money. What's also going to coexist with those two systems are people that just refuse to understand fiat currency doesn't work. It looks like it works. It gets them what they need on the day that they need it, but it's inevitable that it will fail. And if you're left holding a fiat bag when this inevitably fails, probably within our lifetimes, you really need the escape hatch that I'm glad to see Jason Rick. I'm glad to see K&C Cattle Company coming over to Noster. Because they've already been orange pilled on Bitcoin. They understand. As ranchers, they understand. You're talking about some of the most conservative people in the world, and they get it as far as the fact that their fiat money is failing them. It fails them day in, day out, and it just gets worse and worse. So they got orange pilled. Now they're over on Noster. They're starting to get purple pilled. But the only way that they're going to remain here is if you throw them a little bit of attention. Nobody wants to throw up something and get, no re-notes or no somebody saying, hi, thanks for coming. I'm glad to see you here. Welcome to Noster. How can I help your stay more pleasant? Like to be the Walmart greeter like Jack used to be for Noster all the time. He'd be welcome. He'd welcome everybody. I still try to do it, right? But I've pushed out Jason Rick's Noster InPub over on Noster. I've pushed out K&C Cattle over on Noster, and I've got Beef Initiative's Noster account to acknowledge that they're here and push their stuff out on the Beef Initiative stuff. I go back to my account and I push out the stuff that Beef Initiative pushed out, the Jason, Rick, and KNC Cattle Company stuff. It's a fabulous web that I'm weaving here, but it's not enough. Need your help to get some eyeballs on Jason, Rick, and KNC Cattle Company. All right, so go look for them on Nostr. I'll try to get their impubs in the show notes. Also, if you value what I do, Boostograms, set your streaming high. If you're unable to understand what I mean by streaming me Satoshis while you're listening to this, it's because you're not using a modern podcasting application like Fountain, Podverse, or there's like 15 of them. You get chapters, you get chapter art, you get clips, you get transcripts, you get all kinds of stuff that your legacy podcast apps won't do. But the best part about it of all is that podcasting 2.0 and the modern podcasting apps are one of the only ways that you can instantly show me that you value what I do, value the show. I'm bringing you news that way you don't have to read it while you can just listen to me read it to you in the car while you're going to work, man. It's got to be worth something. And if you think that I'm giving you some kind of value, then please donate to this show. It's the only way it works. I have no advertisers. I don't have a producer. I don't have a director. I'm a one-man show, and I've been doing it for over 5 years. This is episode 887. Donate. Donate to the show and help me make the show even. Because without those donations, I can't do things like up my game by buying like a whole mobile podcasting studio. That came from donation. Now I got to figure out who to go get, right? But I've upped the game. You helped me do that through those donations. I'm always going to be asking you for donations to. You think that I'm bringing you value, and show me that value. Throw me boostograms, boost me on Nostr, whatever it is that you want to do. But make sure that you're saying, I love the show, so that I know that you're giving me value, your value that I gave you. I do the production of the Bitcoin and podcast. And I will see you on the other side.